Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tech Collector. As you can see, this one's going to be about microphones. I'll start by telling you that I'm definitely not a Curtis Judd or Banderscott or even, Mike from the Booth Junkie channel. I watch everything they do. I tend to buy most everything they recommend and then try to figure it out when I get it home. But I am someone that has a terrible setup with a full wall of glass right to the side of me and no treatment whatsoever at this stage. So what I'm doing right now is really more or less looking at microphones, some of the more popular microphones here on YouTube, to see how they actually do in an environment that is not, fantastic like a lot of those guys have. The three that we're going to be looking at today in this episode are going to be the Origin. This one's from Aston Audio. Really nice setup. This is actually the black edition. I'm digging it so far. The Shure SM7b, kind of the industry standard, we'll call it, for the YouTube industry. And finally, the Stellar X2 and the vintage setup. A little bit kind of the flavor of the moment. A lot of people are buying these and a lot of people are really liking them. So what I did was, get them all together, record them in a couple different types. I have both the Mix Pre setup and a RODECaster Pro setup to record these to kind of show how they use in a couple different levels of preamps, we'll say. And then we'll try to do a little bit where they're all kind of together and you can kind of see how they sound in this terrible room of glass, just to see how in a real world, non-studio, non-sound booth, some of these things actually work. So let's go ahead and check them out. All right, so we got the two here. The first two, and I think these are going to be the biggest contenders for me, really, and that's the Origin from Aston and the SM7b from Shure. Both are being recorded in 2496 via the preamps of the Mix Pre 3 into Adobe Audition. The Origin has its own pop filter built into this whole apparatus here. And it also has, the shock mount that came with the black edition. The SM7B doesn't have a shock mount on it. They're both on, typical Rode arms here on the back of my desk. So nothing too special there. We also have several other options here. We kind of have this, Captain America kind of shield that actually pops onto the actual mount here of the Origin, and it actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's good for photos. I don't know if it'll be great for sound, but it definitely looks good for photo opportunities of the microphone. Let's just talk a little bit about what comes with the Origin. This is the black edition, so it does come with the shock mount, which is okay. It's nothing special. Really, it is a universal. It kind of latches on, but it doesn't really keep everything straight and things get twisted, and I'm not terribly happy with that. Obviously, the mount for the SM7B does everything you need it to, so no real complaints with how the SM7B mounts onto the standard Rode arms here. It does also come with the filter that I just showed you that we'll test a little bit later to see how that might impact the overall sound, and I'll probably put on the bigger, thicker filter for the SM7B to see how that works as well, especially with sibilance. I tend to have a lot of sibilance in my voice, unfortunately. So that's where we are with just standard talking over the both the Origin and the SM7B, just kind of cycling back and forth so you can see what they sound like. So how about we bring in the third mic to this party? The third mic is the Techzone Audio Stellar X2 in the vintage form. It's a very long name. It's a very interesting microphone. Very popular in the YouTube community. It seems to be the bargain microphone that everybody's looking for, comparing it to much more expensive microphones. Whether that does compare, I don't know. It does tend to have some noise floor, especially when you're sitting back, where I would typically be, because I don't usually have the microphones in the videos that I do. So I have picked up noise there, but I do the same thing with the others, so I guess it's to be expected. So we have the Stellar. It comes with its own shock mount. It's another universal, but it's pretty good and it actually holds it pretty well. It comes with essentially luggage to carry the thing around in very high quality packaging, probably the highest packaging, quality packaging in the comparison here. What we're doing now with the three microphones is we've switched to a typical podcasting setup, and we have the RODECaster Pro running with all of the effects turned off, so it's more or less just streaming through off of its own mic preamps into Audition. This one's recording at the same, I think, 2496K. I don't know that that's really necessary, but I figured might as well do it. We'll see what it's like. So what we have with the three of these, I've tried to get them pretty much universal, in placement here. As we've discussed, the room's not great. It's what we have. So we definitely are picking up room, sound. You get a little bit better once you get closer. When I get in closer a little bit to the SM7B, I think the sound does get quite a bit better. The same with the Stellar. It's a pretty good sound right up front. When you get farther back, you just get more room noise and more ambiance, we'll call it. And a little bit of the same with the actual Origin. The Origin, I think, maybe does a bit better in not losing your voice qualities, but it does bring in more noise when you're farther away from it. When you're farther away from all of them, they do tend to drop off. We'll try to cycle through so you can kind of see what each one is doing. Just regular pop, sounds don't really cause much of an issue with any of them, really. The Origin does have its own pop filter and this apparatus built around it. And then I have the small foam on the Shure, and I think the only foam that came with the actual Stellar X2, but they tend to work pretty well. I don't think I pop much when I'm talking. I do have sibilance, but that's just my voice. There's not much I can do with that. As I said, we'll do a little bit so you can hear what each one of them sounds like in a completely untreated room full of glass. I think, when it really comes down to it, the SM7B, if you're not right on top of it, gets kind of boomy in my room. The Stellar does pretty well. I use it quite a bit just on, conference calls even, because it does pick up without being in the scene. And the new guy here, the Origin, I think I like the sound quality of it quite a bit, but it does need to be kind of right up on the mic. But for overall quality and accuracy, if I was going to be recording an album, I might be looking at this one, because I think the quality of voice in this one is really quite good. So there you have it. That's the first three we're going to look at in this comparison series to see what might work best in my fairly terrible space here for recording. I will be working on getting some better sound treatment, getting some other stuff done here so we can make this a little bit more useful. But for right now, I have put on the Captain America shield here for the Origin to see how it actually affects, when you're up close, if you're actually getting much difference with the pop filter on compared to, I still have the Shure SM7b, the standard, on, because I don't really detect much of a difference between the two. I just lose a little bit of the top end, I think, with the thicker. So I tend to keep this guy on because I like the sound a little bit better. So basically that's where we are with the comparison of three good mics in a bad space. Let me know down below, what you guys think sounds the best of all of them. I'm really interested to know, really interested in hearing what comments you might have on them. I know, like I've said in the beginning, I'm not really up on all the recording techniques and everything that some of the more popular channels are doing. I watch them a lot and I try to learn it, but I'm sure I have some matching issues. I have some other issues, but feel free to point those out too if you like. But I hope you got something out of this. Three popular mics in a untreated room, which I think a lot of people are probably dealing with. So we will see you on the next one. Take it easy.